People of Reddit, what was your cringiest adult experience? I've actually got a story for this one, so I'll go first. It was a pretty standard college class nightmare. We've all been there. The whole, did I turn off what I was watching last night? God, I hope so, thought process. Yeah, well, one night I forgot to close out my browser and left the volume on. Went to class the next day and started up my laptop right next to some new people I'd just met. Instant regret. I'd made it this far without screwing this up, and of course it had to happen in my first semester of college, surrounded by people with a teacher mid-lecture. And of course, it wasn't as simple as mute the laptop or shut it off, because the volume comes on before I'm able to log in, and I have to log in order to be able to turn down the volume. So I sat there pretending like my laptop was on the fritz, trying to talk over the sound that was blatantly obvious to me, hoping to dear God that the people around thought I just had anger issues and was struggling to log into my computer. Yeah, I'm not friends with the guys who sat next to me during that class anymore, but oddly enough, not for this reason. In fact, they never actually mentioned it, although the guy closest to me definitely knew. Story 1. On Halloween night, I went over to hang out with my girlfriend at the time. Her mom was gone, so we hung out in her house. We got busy in her kitchen, then hung out in her backyard for a while in the hot tub. Shortly after her mom came back home, one of my girlfriend's friends came over and we all went trick-or-treating. In reality, we walked to an empty duplex that her mom owned and decided to use one of the rooms in there. Of course, my girlfriend forgot the key. So, what did we do? We thought, hey, let's break in. We decided to break a basement window in, and her friend climbs through to unlock the door for us. We go in, and her friend goes off around the house to do who knows what. My girlfriend and I start making out, and then we hear police sirens. We got out of there as fast as we could, but, like idiots, we ran through the front door. The police run up, guns drawn, and stop us. We all get searched. The guy that searched me found a rubber. He turned around and asked, "Is this what you were here for?" And I nodded in shame. Although now that I think about it, he probably thought that I was getting with both of them. Our parents get called, and we all sit down to wait for them to come. They take our info, and our parents show up. My dad takes me home and decides not to punish me because he figured I was shaken up enough by the cops. And thankfully, insurance covered the window break-in. Story 2. Wait a few dates before getting any southbound action. Why? I was getting my first from my girlfriend at the time, and she was, a bit goth and moody and shit, and I didn't know that she was into pain. Found out when she bit down really hard, and as I was pulling out, dragged her incisors down me and ripped me up pretty bad down there. She was way too into it and started licking up the blood. I had the most confused finish I have ever had in my life. Then afterwards, I was in a lot of pain and cried for about 15 minutes as she tried to bandage it up and told me to suck it up, it isn't that bad. She explained that she believed she was a vampire. I told her that I believed she was my ex as well. Dropped her back off at school and never talked to her again. Always get to know them first. Always. Yeah, and discuss that shit beforehand. Guy learned that the hard way, but for the love of God, or whatever you believe in, protect yourself by discussing what's on the table and what's not. The last thing anyone needs is a scarred to shit Johnson, a child, or an SA charge. Be safe out there, gents. Story 3. I was dating this girl, and I went to her house to hang out. We were in the basement on the couch watching a movie with her brother who was sitting in front of us on the floor. And so I started feeling her up because he couldn't see and he was too focused on the film anyways. Brother went upstairs after a few, and I got my first Boris Johnson. Shit was awesome, and she was great at it. Brother comes back downstairs, and, we start messing around some more because he's still fixated on the show. Mostly just feeling on each other, and we end up telling the brother that we're going to go walk around for a little while. And then secretly go to a walk-in closet adjacent to the basement, and she starts going down south again. This one takes forever though because it was uncomfortable in that closet, and I just finished like 15-20 minutes prior to this time. Maybe 45 minutes to an hour go by. God bless her, she was a real trooper for this one. And her mom starts looking for us. She sees a light on in the closet, but we quickly turn it off when we hear her come down the stairs. But of course, the mom noticed, and so she knocks and asks if we're in there. And my ex's dumbass responds, "Yeah, keep in mind, I took my pants and underwear off, and I've got to get them back on quickly in the fucking dark before her mother opens up the closet door, which has no lock on it. I pull it off, but as my girlfriend walks out and I'm there behind her, I'm holding up my pants, which were undone and on backwards. Dating her was pretty wild. Story 4. When I was a teenager, my mom knew that my girlfriend and I were sleeping together. She was like, "You need to make sure you use protection," which was awkward enough by itself. But then she says, "I bought some for you. They're in the bathroom." Ah, damn it, Mom. Then, one day, my girlfriend and I were home alone. So I went looking for the stuff my mom bought me and couldn't find them anywhere. So I literally had to text my mom asking her where they were, so I could then proceed to get busy with my girlfriend. She replied instantly that they were in the bathroom, under the sink, except that they weren't. So I didn't get busy, and it was super cringy having to ask my mom where she put those. To make things extra spicy cringy, we found out later that my little brother had been using them for his own personal needs, which is why they weren't in the bathroom. I'm sure that was super embarrassing at the time, but honestly, that's a pretty cool mom. She knew what was up. I mean, gotta make sure your teenager doesn't grow up with child support payments. That woman was just being a good wingman. Guy's brother was a proper blocker, though. Story 5. I did it with this guy, and it was taking forever. Usually not a problem, except it was super boring. Like 45 minutes of straight missionary. I was like, "Are you at least close?" To which he replied, "I'm not some high school chump." We both left unsatisfied. Story 6. I was at a party with my then ex-girlfriend in high school. Both of us were pretty drunk, and she wants to smash, so we go upstairs to the bathroom, lock the door, and turn off the lights. I lie on the floor, no protection, and she proceeds to get on top of me. I have narcolepsy, so I tend to fall asleep at inappropriate times, this being one of those times. I fell asleep for who knows how long, and I wake up to the sudden urge to finish and yell, "Get off!" and push her off me. She hit her head on the counter, and I finish all over myself. It was a sad moment, and a messy one. Story 7. I was a teen who got caught in the act by his mother. She told my dad, and later when he got home, they gave me this big speech about the birds and the bees. They're super religious though, and they talked about how I'm wasting my seed, and God didn't create the sexual limb for recreation, and it's only for procreation. That shit was so humiliating that honestly, I repressed it in my memory until just now. Story 8. My first and last Tinder date, circa 2014. Met her at a bar. She's cute and kind of awkward and dorky, which I like. We have nice but very light conversation. Nothing went very deep, even when the subject changed, and I see it's not really going anywhere, and we don't have much chemistry. After an hour or so, I pay for the drinks and go to say goodnight, and she asks me back to her place. Sure, I guess, why not? Then she asks me, in all seriousness, if I'm planning on killing her. I explained to her that I am not, although that was weird, and I still follow her back to her house. We sit in her living room, drinking red wine and listening to indie music. It's kind of nice, and we get cuddly. She then mentions that she has a flight early in the morning for a family vacation with her parents and siblings, which I take as a hint. She then spills a huge glass of red wine on her white carpet and spends the next 20 minutes frantically trying to clean it up. I'm ready to leave at this point, but she apologizes and asks me to stay the night. My instincts were screaming no, but my curiosity said, we gotta see where this goes. So, we go up to her room and get into her bed, clothed. She says, "Okay, good night," and turns off the light. I'm very confused at this point, and I just kinda lay there in the dark, thinking, what the hell even is this? Then she says, "I'm sorry, we're not doing anything tonight. I feel like I'm leading you on. I'd give you some downstairs attention, but I don't want to be sick for my trip." I go, "Yeah, it's okay," and now start planning my escape. As I lay there in silence, she starts running her fingers through my hair. Okay. And she keeps doing it, but now she starts whispering, "Baby, baby," over and over as she does it. I finally noped the fuck out and say the wine made me feel bad and I had to leave. It took me a good week to feel normal again after that. It was like some American Horror Story shit. Not the first time I've heard of a crazy chick like this, and it certainly won't be the last. In fact, I knew a dude whose girlfriend at the time was extremely violent and conniving. He had to call the cops on her one night, and as soon as he dialed 911, she immediately went off to the closet by their front door to calm down. When the police arrived, she burst out the door, wrapped herself around the first officer, yelling, "He hits me! He hits me!" She was one of those crazy 10 types. Thankfully, she's the one who got arrested because there wasn't a scratch on her, while he had obvious nail marks all over his face from her attacking him. But I've heard of girls using makeup to make fake bruises so they can be more convincing. Be safe out there, gents, and don't stick your prick in crazy. Story 9. Met a Tinder date at her place. Surprise, she has 2 young children of which I was unaware. Extremely weird for me, but it was just a dinner thing, not a hookup. Or so I thought. This woman was being aggressively forward while shooing her kids away every 5 minutes. The atmosphere made it clear that she wanted me to stay the night, so she goes to put her kids to sleep. And so far it's been uncomfortable, but not a deal breaker. Then one of the kids calls me daddy. I'm in my early 20s. I freak the fuck out and made an excuse, a piss poor excuse granted, and left. Story 10. I did it with some girl while we were both crazy, massively drunk at a high school Christmas party when I was 18. It was my first time, and we went at it for hours. We were out front of my house in her car when I saw my dad leave to go find me. He did a U-turn at the end of the block and pulled back into our garage. I yanked up my pants and went inside. My dad came in and said we were going to have a serious talk tomorrow morning. I woke up the next morning in abject terror with a screaming hangover and went to the bathroom. Then I hear him coming down the hall, and when I'm out of the bathroom, he's standing there waiting for me. He comes over and says, "If you're going to be messing around, wear a rubber." And that was it. I told him I was really hungover, and he told me to put my finger down my throat and gag myself. I didn't know what I was doing, so I started to do what he said, and he began laughing and said, "Maybe not," and left. He continued to laugh as he walked down the hall. I didn't think me gagging was that funny, but then I looked down and realized that my shirt and the fingers I had just stuck down my throat were covered in dry, flaky menstrual blood. And it was all over my pants too. I threw up immediately. First adult experience? Really bad. Story 11. I was 17, fat, and no girls would talk to me. Matched with one who sent me a few pictures, and she wasn't the greatest. It didn't look like she took very good care of herself. But she was from a town over and said she wanted to hang out, so I told her to come pick me up. We park in a parking lot in the middle of nowhere, go in the back of her SUV, and I start kissing her, and it tastes like tobacco and horse. We start going at it, but she keeps making weird, fake moaning sounds, and it completely ruins the mood. For a while, I just completely zone out until I went soft. And then she went downstairs with some vacuum action that was so aggressive it burst a small vein and caused me to swell up and turn purple like a bruise. I looked like the Saints Row 3 baseball bat. She starts to drive me home while I'm whimpering in pain, and she keeps joking about not taking me home and kidnapping me instead. She then tells me her schedule to hang out again, alongside her schedule for violence counseling, as well as dropping her kid off at daycare and picking him up, saying that we can squeeze a 40-minute session in at lunch. I just say, okay, and hope to God she drops me off at my house without stealing my kidneys. She does, drop me off at my house that is, and tries to kiss me, but I just hover arm hug her by bumping my chest up against hers. I go to my room, throw all of my clothes from that day in the laundry basket across the room, and lay down, feel sick, go throw up, take a shower, and scrub my entire body. And then I stay home from school the next day. Story 12. My first time, we went out at Missionary for 45 minutes, and only finished up because I had to be home for curfew. He didn't actually finish, and neither did I, and then he cried while walking me to my car. Turns out, he was very, very gay, And now we're actually really good friends. Felt bad for the pressure that guy was under, though, from his parents. I can't imagine. Story 13. I once did it with a bigger guy I was dating in his pool in the middle of the night, and he had the smallest pecker I had ever seen. It was our first time, and it was the worst I'd ever had. I'm a pretty small person, and he was very large and kinda had to pin me against the side of the pool as he kept trying to put it in, but it just wasn't working. So he was kind of humping me and basically turning the pool into a wave pool. Water was splashing onto my face, and he was making horrible grunting noises while I just kind of had to stay there pinned with these damn waves crashing into me and his body smashing into mine with nothing actually happening down there. I thought this was all awkward enough until after he finally started to give up, I looked back into his house to see his friend, who I thought was asleep, making a deposit at the spank bank on the couch, watching this whole goddamn nightmare go down. We didn't date very long. God, I feel bad for everyone in that situation, except the friend in the house. That guy was just, no thanks. But I mean, for the guy involved in the pool, there's surgeries for that. You can actually get an increase in size. And for the girl, I hope she's doing better now. That sounds like it was a very bumpy, bruisey, and not in the fun kind of way experience. But either way, we're moving on to the rapid fire segment now. 4 stories too short to make a full entry of, but too good to be left out. Let's hop right in. Went home with a Tinder date, kissed and got naked, and threw up in her bed before we could do anything. Got the tip of my junk caught in the brace bar behind her teeth. She was struggling to pull away, which hurt, so I was trying to stop her. We ended up calling her dad for help. He brought me a cup of ice and a warning to never come back. I did not. I was getting lip service while laying on my back, and when I said I was about to finish, she let go of me, and that caused me to shoot straight onto my face. When I get going, I have the tendency to sneeze. Anyway, if she wasn't wet before, she is now. Got lip service from a dude. He said I wouldn't know if I liked it until I tried it. I was soft the entire time. My first ever time, the dude asks, "Can I try something?" and proceeds to shove 2 fingers up my rear end. No prep, no forewarning. I noped the fuck out of there. So that's it for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content, as well as leave your story in the comments below. I'm ReddList. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time.